This is going to be fun. I want to first of all say this really clearly, especially for any of you who have ever studied speaking with me and so on, I'm going to break just about every rule I'll ever teach you about speaking by doing a talk I've never, ever done before or even really contemplated doing. It's going to be fun. Are you guys ready? Yes. Also, the talk that I thought I was going to do a week ago I thought I had it all done. Got on the plane, roughly had an idea what I was going to say, and then John Gray's on the stage, and then Esther's on the stage, and then Marissa's on the stage. So I changed it a little bit here, and then I got to change over here, so this morning I woke up and I had an idea, and then John and Missy got on the stage, and so and it's not so much that I wanted to change what I was going to say; it's that I didn't want to repeat things that they'd already said, and it's also that I really found something fascinating, and that was that they created a frame of permission to speak about things that I generally don't. You know what I'm talking about? Like my wife and I, we run retreats, and there's one group of clients that occasionally we've done open mic. But we have to know them for about 3 years. They come to our house. We kick the crew out of the room. We turn the cameras off. We make them sign NDAs. And John and Missy got up here and just did it. And I want to, first of all, give them a huge hand for that. But I also want to acknowledge another energy that made that possible. And together, what I want to acknowledge is vision for creating an environment where we can come here and speak our truth, and that you can be here, and I want to thank you. So all together, everything that is A-Fest. Thank you guys so much. So, it's funny, the whip, my marketing people or other people, somewhere along the line, years ago, they started referring to me as like the Indiana Jones of the speaking world, right? And after my whole experience with the whip, I have this horrible feeling I'm going to open the press on Monday and it's going to be the Christian Grey of the speaking world. If they write that article, I hope they at least write it well. So I want to share something with you about cheetahs. You guys familiar with cheetahs? I'm not saying cheaters, cheetahs. For the English people, they don't have R's. I don't know what the deal with that is. But cheetahs they're fascinating. Do you know that a cheetah can do 0 to 60 or 100, depending on which measurement you're using, at about the same speed as a Tesla? Is that incredible? But there's something fascinating about them, and that is that when they have their children, when they have their first litter, almost always the first litter doesn't make it. Almost always. The first litter rarely ever makes it, and then the mother learns from that, and then eventually she goes on to have it a second and third, and she can then have successful children. And I mention that to you because I am certain that my brother and I were the first litter. It's a miracle that we're here. And I'm joking a little bit about that, but what I mean is, and this is going to talk about parenting, I think it's interesting. We're here talking about love, sex, and relationships, and one of the things we've kind of left out a little, it's been touched on here and there, is love, sex, and relationships often leads to children. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes not so much. In my case, it was on purpose, but one of the things that I got thinking a lot about before I got into the idea of having kids was that my parents created a circumstance where I simultaneously felt very loved and unbelievably insecure all the time. My father was an alcoholic and tried to drink himself into oblivion on a number of occasions. He's sober now and everything's good, but this is the environment that I grew up in, and that's what I mean about being that first litter of cheetahs. I mention this because we now, as parents, how many of you guys are parents? Cool. That's excellent. And how many of you guys are going to be parents one day? Okay, excellent. And how many of you are like, no, I've watched. I'm not doing that. Stick with that. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. And just to give you, I have a little credibility in the parenting world because I have 2 children, right? Yeah, it's a little credibility. One of them is 19 years old, and the other one is 9 months old. Yeah, so I'm seeing a spectrum. My one son has a driver's license. My daughter will probably never need to drive. Isn't that interesting? Interesting for sure. And so as I go into this thing about being a parent, one of the things I think about is, wait a second now, I got to make sure that I don't put my kids through the stuff my parents put me through. I got to protect them. I got to take care of them. Because I I would do just about anything to prevent my children going through the things I went through as a kid. And in the weirdest twist of fate, I am grateful for every single one of those things that happened to me as a child. That's the puzzle of parenting in my mind. Isn't it interesting? Yeah. I I felt like I woke up. I was sitting watching The Love Boat. You guys remember The Love Boat? I was watching The Love Boat. I was about 8 years old. And my brother, who was 2 years younger, was in the room with me. And I'm going to ask you to do one thing. I know you're probably not supposed to be recording anyway, but this you're really not going to record. Are we cool? Yes. So I'm watching The Love Boat, and I suddenly hear some smashing and banging and crashing from the other end of my house. Now, this was not an entirely unusual thing, but it seemed more intense than I was used to. And so I went out to the door, and I stuck my head out the corner. Because, when they're smashing and banging, you don't just walk out into the hallway. Who knows, right? I stuck my head around the corner, and I looked down. And I see my mom and my dad in the kitchen fighting over a knife. A knife that Crocodile Dundee would have agreed was a knife. And I instinctively knew a few things. One is I knew my dad was not trying to hurt my mom. I knew that. I also knew he wasn't trying to kill himself, although my mom did not know that. Because I also knew that my dad was just terrorizing my mom with this suicide thing and the knife. And I just knew this. I was 7. And my mom saw me. We locked eyes. And she says, call the police. She shouts down the hall, call the police, call the police. Does this seem like a reasonable request? Except, again, by 7, I'd already figured out that would never work. Because violence plus violence just makes everything worse. My dad, in that state of mind, and the police could have only gone badly, in my opinion. But I figured something else out, and that was that insanity is neutralized by respected sanity. Temporary insanity, at least, is neutralized by respected sanity. I knew this as a kid. I knew that if I wanted to come home from school and not feel terrorized, that I should bring friends home with me, because then everybody would be on best behavior. And so instead of calling the police, I called my father's best friend. He lived about a block and a half away, and I called him and I told him what was going on, and I asked him to come over. I was 7. He called the police, but he knew he understood what I was doing instantly. He knew he could get to my house before the police. He walked into the house, and what did my father do when he walked in? What do you think? Yeah, that's right. He put the knife down. He just put the knife down, and John, so good to see you. It was not John Gray. He said, John, it's so good to see you. And it was over, and then the police arrived, and it was so over that my dad seemed a little bemused as to what the police were doing there. There was no need for them anymore. Now, I mention this to you for 2 reasons. The one is, stop trying to protect your children from everything. Really, really. My son called me that day. Dad, I'm going to go buy myself this really cool Jaguar, 1982 Jaguar. Is this a good idea? If you know anything about English, Jaguars in 1982, this is not a good purchase. So he says, Dad, should I go ahead and do that? And I said, yeah, I think you should. You do? Yeah. Why, Dad? And I go, I think it's awesome. It's a super sexy car. And it's totally going to help you meet girls. It's awesome. It's really excellent. I think you should do it. Plus, I think there's some really deep spiritual lessons that car is going to teach you. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, the thing is, you're going to use all your money to buy it, and then it's going to break. It's a Jaguar. It's an old Jaguar. It's going to break, and its parts are going to be really expensive, and then you're not going to be able to afford them. Plus, it's a V8, which means you're only going to be able to afford to drive to the gas station and home. So, at some point, you're going to have this Jaguar sitting in the driveway that you can't drive, and girls won't be that impressed to come out and sit in your parked Jaguar. And then you're going to learn a lesson that I wish I'd learned when I was 18 years old, instead of finding it out when I spent my life's fortune buying a movie studio. You can make the mistake now. And he's like, okay, Dad. Did he buy the Jaguar? No. But I was totally happy for him to, because I'm not trying to protect him from everything anymore. I'll tell him what I think, but I won't tell him what to do. Does this make sense? So, along with that, I think a lot about what children do around creating meanings. Here's an interesting topic. After all this, I spoke to one of the children that was in the room watching their parents on the stage, and I thought, wow, it's interesting when your children get to see you speak. You know, Wayne Dyer used to say that his daughter would be having a problem, and he'd go to her and he'd say, you know, honey, I think maybe I can help you. No, Dad. No, I don't need to hear it. Thanks very much. And he's like, but honey, people pay me like thousands and thousands of dollars to help them. Yeah, you're my dad, right? And so for years and years, my sons never had seen me speak anywhere. And one day I showed up in Vancouver and I was doing an event, and there's about 1,000 people, which is enough to create an impression on a child. And he saw me speak, and then after the event, he came up to me and we're walking along, and he goes, Dad, I think you know some things. Yeah, it's a little different. But here's something. Is anybody here bemused about how to speak to children about sex? Anybody curious about that? I got to tell you that I think this is a really important topic that lines right into what we're talking about here. And I'll tell you, my parents, my mother, she grew up in puritanical, Orthodox Dutch South Africa. So what do you think her sex education was like? I will tell you that when her period came, she thought she was dying. I mean it. She had 2 older sisters, mind you. And then she thought she was dying. She didn't tell anybody because she wanted to go to school and say goodbye to her friends. And so my parents decided, we're not doing that to our kids. My dad in particular, we're not doing that to our kids. We're telling them everything. I remember sitting there one day and he's like, well, the man puts his penis inside the woman. And I'm immediately thinking, I don't know how, it's just this little thing, a rubbery little, And he sees the look on my face and he goes, no, it'll get hard. And in my head I'm going, call social services, man, I'm 4 years old. Like he was telling me everything. I felt like I was being abused. And so now I'm thinking, now I've got kids and I'm like, I know one way not to do it, and I know another way that's even more dangerous, I think. So what do I do? So one day I'm sitting with my son came to visit me in Turks and Caicos, where I was living at the time, and I said, listen, Daniel, I need an hour, just an hour to catch up on some work and stuff, and then after that hour, you've got me. We'll go drive the Jeep, we'll go have some fun. And my son, unfortunately, listens to me how to do marketing. Know your target audience, know what's important to them, speak to them where they live. That's the key to marketing, really. And so he knows his target audience, it's his dad. And he knows what's important to his dad at that moment was work. So if he comes up and asks me about kid things, I'm going to say, Daniel, I told you I need an hour to work. No, he's really smart. He's like, hey, Dad, did you guys work on the Transformers movie? So it's a work question, right? I'm working, it's a work question. Resonance, this is marketing, guys. And I'm like, yeah, we worked on that movie. And in my head, I'm thinking, he knows that. Why would he ask that? Oh, well. And he goes, hey, Dad, now, he's about 12, and girls are bad, right? They're icky, they're embarrassing, and they're bad when you're 12, or when he was 12. And so he's like, I'm typing away, and he goes, Dad, what was your favorite part of the movie? I'm typing away, and I'm not conscious, like I'm working, and I shouldn't be having this conversation. I'm fully focused. And I go, oh, it was probably that scene when Megan Fox was running in slow motion through the... I just referred to bouncing breasts to my 12-year-old son. And I'm thinking, I've just done what my dad did. And I look out the corner of my son over here looking at him, and he goes, yeah, that was pretty cool, wasn't it, Dad? I'm like, we can talk. It's coming, right? So I sat down with him, and I said, hey, Daniel, listen. I want you to know you can ask me about anything. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, bring it on. Bring it on. You can ask me anything. And he goes, no, I can't. And why not? He goes, because you're my dad. It would be embarrassing. I said, no, but you see, here's the thing. I've experimented. I've tried it. Why go make the mistakes on your own? And tell me, is there some 12, 15-year-old out there you're going to go ask them? You got to ask me. He goes, no, I can't do it. It's too embarrassing. And I said, I'll tell you what. I think I know where the line of embarrassment is. So you ask me a question. And then if I think it's going to hit you in the line, I'm going to stop. I'm going to warn you, and then you can decide. And he goes, okay, we'll try that. So one day he's like, hey, Dad, I think I want to work out more. I want to get more fit. Now, do kids care about their health? No. No. So trying to convince him to work out for his health is a pointless, again, lesson in marketing, right? What's interesting to him. So I don't talk to him about his health. Oh yeah, Daniel, that'd be great for your health and your longevity and your, no. I go, that's awesome. It'll be great for meeting girls. And he goes, it will? Why? And I go, instincts, Daniel, instincts. And he says, and he and I talk about natural selection and instincts all the time. He knows about my visits with the Bushmen and all this stuff. So he goes, well, if it's instincts, then it must have provided like a breeding advantage somewhere along the line. And I go, yep. And he goes, well, how? And I go, I can't tell you. He goes, why not? Boundaries. Try. Well, all right, I guess I probably can. I mean, all I'm really saying is that if a woman sees a man that has really like strong, powerful legs, good bum, good chest, she doesn't even know it, but her DNA responds to that. He's like, really? I go, yeah, I mean, if you see one man who's kind of standing like this and another man that is just that much up, I watched that happen in the audience. Women responded to that, some. And I was amazed. Even with the spotlights, maybe I just felt it. But it was a disturbance in the force. So my son he goes, okay, why? I mean, why would that give them that response? And I'm like, well, I don't think I can tell you. Why not? This is where the boundaries come in. Try. All right. I can tell you about the legs. The thing is, the legs indicate that he could run fast and climb and hunt and gather and provide protection and security. And that's why. And he goes, that makes sense. He says, what about the chest? And I go, well, similar thing. A broad chest indicates that, he's powerful, it's symmetrical, again, this providing security, all that stuff. And he goes, I get that. He goes, what about the bum? I said, no. We're not talking about that. And he said, why not? I said, boundaries, Daniel. And he goes, try. And I'm like, all right. I said, Daniel, at this stage, my presumption is that you understand the biomechanics of procreation. He's like, yes. And I go, well, a really good, solid bum indicates excellent thrusting capacity. Boundary reached! And so that's how we talk. When he went to Germany on summer camp, he picked up the phone, he called me, and he goes, Dad, it's been 2 weeks, I've been having a great time, my friends are going out drinking tonight. They're going out drinking tonight, and I want to go out with my friends, and I don't want to be the odd guy out. What's your advice to me? He's smart, though, this little bugger. He doesn't say, should I have beer or not, right? Not, again, marketing. No yes or no questions, right? He's like, how many beers should I have, Dad? Smart kid. I go, Daniel, you are below drinking age, so as your parental unit, I must inform you that drinking below drinking age is unlawful and that you should absolutely not consider doing that. I said, now, Daniel, that was for the NSA, because I think they're listening. Just you and me here. I said, 1 is good. 1 is good. 2, if you really feel like you have to. But again, know your target audience. My son is phobic of vomiting. He hates it, right? I said, but be aware of the 3rd beer. Why? It's the puke beer. What? It's the puke beer? He's like, I'm not having 3 beer. But you mean if I drink a 3rd beer, I'm going to puke? And I go, not necessarily. But if you drink a 3rd beer, you will lose your decision capacity and you will have a 4th beer. And then you will have a 5th beer and then you will vomit. How many of you would love for your children to call you before they drink their first drink? Create the frame. Give them permission. Create the frame. And I'm grateful that I've been able to do that. And one of the reasons that I've been able to do that is that I've just been trying to observe human behavior my whole life. I've asked questions from the beginning. You guys know Rudyard Kipling and the Just So stories? Anybody? You know, how the leopard got his spots, that sort of thing. I'm kind of like that. I'm always asking why. John Gray and I, years ago, we were walking along, and he goes, Eric, why? He's always studying the internal body chemistry. You guys, estrogen and glucagon, and, he says, Eric, we eat fruit and we make insulin, But if we stop eating fruit and we don't eat sugar, we make glucagon. Why does the pancreas do that? And I said, well, if you're in Africa with the Bushmen, what you'll find is that mostly fruit is available right before drought, right before winter. And so when you're eating all that fruit, your body knows to make insulin to break down the sugar. But when you stop eating it, your body starts producing glucagon, and it starts pushing you toward ketosis, which is saying, hey, winter's over now. Winter's over, so it changes the function of the... So I'm always, and he was like, holy cow. So he and I do this all the time. So for example, John, he often says, he and I have many points of agreement, and we have lots of little contentious things, like what time to end your talk. But one of them is that and this comes from old Mars Venus days, but he said women say 10,000 words a day and men say 5,000 words a day. Women, how many of you would categorically disagree with that statement? I agree with you, because I don't think it's a matter of the number of words a day they say, it's a matter of when they say them. It's a matter of when they say them and what they're talking about. But before we go into this, I need to offer a few things. The one I want to offer you is that I'm going to occasionally use stereotypes. I'm going to say men do this and women do that, and I know that that is not consistent. But I am not ruling my life by what I call the tyranny of the bell curve. You know the story? The story of the woman who never ate well and drank and smoked cigarettes and all the way till the end. This was my grandmother, by the way, and made it to the ripe old age of 86. That's somebody at the edge of the bell curve. The rest of us living like that, it would go badly. Does this make sense to you? And so in the middle of the bell curve, men do this and women do that. Are we okay with that? Yes. Cool. And so in order for us to really do this properly, I also want to put you into a time when things are a little different. Because you see, one of the things that's difficult in discussing gender differences, and I go to Norway to discuss gender differences sometimes. It's hard. It's hard. I do this marketing exercise where I'm teaching people about marketing, and I go, now, if we want to sell wedding photography to a bride, it's different than if we want to sell it to a groom. We can't just use the old-style marketing. I say, brides, all the women in this room, and I really want an answer from you. How old were you the first time you fantasized about, thought about, acted your wedding? How old? 5? 8? 12? 14? If you're in Norway, the answer is 26. The answer is 26. It's culturally different. You can blame Disney, maybe, but I'm going to say there's some instincts in it, too. By the way, men. There are men in this room that are married that have yet to really give it deep consideration. And so if you are marketing to them, you can't sell the same thing. If I want to get the bride to look at my marketing, I'm going to say, brides, there's 7 minutes. Wait, she's been thinking about this since she's 4. What does she want from her wedding day? Only one thing, perfection. That's what she wants that day. She gets to tell her friends what to wear. She gets to pick the music, choose the flower. She wants perfection that day. And as she's about to marry a man, she'd better get this one. Better get this perfect day. It's going to get messy after that, right? Then, on the other hand, if I want to advertise to the men, I have to use something different. What does a man want? What does a man want from his wedding day? Beer. Sex. Yeah, but let's just get really clear. What a man really wants from his wedding day is for his bride to be insanely happy, which is incidentally all he ever wants for her for the rest of their lives. It is. I know our behavior doesn't demonstrate that to you sometimes, but it is the primary thing that we want. And so we need to market differently. And so the challenge is sometimes when you start talking about gender differences, then there are people who go, well, I'm a strong, independent woman, and I don't want it to be that way. Or a man who's like, I don't really feel like that. So I want to just, you guys up for a little time machine? Can you give me Africa? Can you guys just relax for a minute? Just totally relax. In fact, if I could have a handheld mic, that would even be better. But it's not that important. Oh, it's right there, good. Just relax and give me Africa on the screens. Now, you guys know there was a time before Netflix, right? Yeah, I know there was. And there was a time before television. What did families do before television? They sat around, so they had sex. What kind of conference is this? Before television, the family sat around the radio, literally sat around the radio. Before radio, what did they do? Sat around the fire. What percentage of time was around the radio versus the fire versus the fire versus the radio versus the television versus Netflix? What percentage? If this stage represents time, here we are at the beginning of time. We were standing around a fire. At some point about 2 million years ago, we figured out fire. And we sat around the fire, and we shared all our wisdom around the fire. And we educated around the fire, and we shared our victories and sorrows and myths and stories around the fire. And then right about here, we invented the radio. And then just a little bit after that, the television. We're talking about an infinitesimally small period of time. In other words, your DNA doesn't really respond well to this whole other system. It needs the fire. It really does. How many of you feel a weird state of trance, a real set of calm when you sit around the fire? How many of you see what I'm talking about? I want to tell you, you guys can put it up, throw it up. I want to tell you that a couple of months ago, I went off to Africa, as I often do. And I brought one of my WildFit coaches with me and 2 unbelievably intrepid and brave Mind Valley photographers. And they came with me. And I said, okay, now when we go see the Bushmen, you guys are going to go in the lodge, and I'm going to sleep in the camp with the Bushmen. And when I say camp, the Bushmen guys are nomadic. They don't live in the same place for more than a few days. They're hunter-gatherers. They don't farm. They don't have money. It's hard to find them. And so I said, you guys are going to stay in the lodge. I'm going to stay with them and the wild animals and all that stuff. And then my WildFit coach, she's like, I want to come with you. And I'm like, now the logistics are getting difficult because I'm going to have to separate the group. I'm like, okay. And I go to Karen and Kirsty, and I say, are you guys up for a little bit of an adventure? And they're like, yeah. I said, then let's do it. And we headed out, and we got to the Bushman camp, and the Bushmen had a fire going. And every now and again, you hear this sound. It's a hyena. It's a hyena. And we heard one. And I think it was Karen, and Karen says, down a little on that. Karen says, what is this? I said, it's a hyena. How far is it? It's about 2 miles. Okay, that'll take it about 20 minutes. And we slept around the fire all night. And so I want you to sleep around the fire for a moment now. Does that sound okay? Go ahead and close your eyes if you're comfortable, and if you're not, go ahead and close them anyway. And I want to teach you something a little bit about stress that you already know, but I want you to really know it right now, and that is that with your eyes closed and defocused and your lungs filling deeply with oxygen, I want you to recognize that the only time in nature that you would ever allowed yourself to breathe that deeply was when your entire environment was safe. Would you breathe that deeply if there was a lion 30 feet away? No. But when your environment feels completely safe, it allows you to begin to breathe really deeply now because your environment is safe. And the more deep breathing you do, the safer you feel. And in that place of safety, you can let go of any muscle tension from your toes to your ankles to your legs and knees, through your hips. You can bring a warm sense of relaxation up through your hips into your belly. In your bum, your back. You can let it roll up over your back, come down the front of your face and relax your face. Even the little muscles at the corners of your eyes. Even your tongue can let go right now. And in this place, what I would like you to do is understand that you are entirely safe and that we're going to travel in time. And we're going to go back. We're going to go back to your parents, 2. And then your grandparents, 4. And then their parents, 8. And then their parents, 16. And then their parents, 32. And then their parents, 64. And then their parents, 128. And then their parents, 256. And then their parents, 512. And then their parents, 1,000 people 10 generations ago had sex to make you. And then another generation, it's 2,000. And then it's 4,000. And then 8,000. and then 16,000, and then 32,000, and then 64,000, 128, 250,000, 500,000, and 20 generations ago, 1 million people fucked to create you. And I want you to go back and be there with them right now. I want you to imagine what the world is like without a cell phone, without electricity. The stars are brighter than you could ever imagine unless you've been in one of these places. In fact, when you're in that deep place in Africa, thousands of years ago, the stars are so bright that they seem like all variations of white in the sky. As in, there is no point in the black sky that is not white. It's glittering. It was the primary entertainment. And you stare up and you look at those stars. And then I want you to imagine contemplating that you're going to sleep that night. And while you are asleep, there will be large animals all around you in the bush. Elephants, rhinos, giraffes, lions, spotted hyenas that can crush a giraffe's thigh bone with their jaws, leopards that love hunting primates. For those of us that have ever had a fear of the dark, it's natural because it was a dangerous time. And then I want you to imagine that the next day, when everybody wakes up with the sun and the birds start coming along, that you start contemplating your day a little bit further. I want you to know that you were not safe back then. And then, for those of you who are women, I want you to think about the moment that the men left camp to go hunting. The men left you with the children in the camp to go hunting. There are still big, large animals out there. Then, if your partner died, you died. If you lost your partner, the world changed irreparably. And this is why sometimes a split up feels really bad, even when in your heart you know it's the right thing. You see, your DNA is sitting there. I mean, how many of you ever heard one of your girlfriends say, or maybe said this yourself? He took everything from me. My life is over. That's not an exaggeration. It's just in the wrong era. And so I want you all to recognize that those million ancestors that lived back then to create you survived the most unlikely circumstances in history. Really difficult times. And your DNA evolved in those times, not in these ones. And so sometimes you have instincts that don't match with the way we live today. And what we can do is remap that, and we can say, hey, you know what? That's what my instinct brain tells me, but I can have consciousness at this point. And so I want you to sort of slowly come back to the room. It's 2017 again. You've met some of your ancestors in a sort of vibrational way. And now let's talk a little bit more about relationships. If you guys can bring the lights back up, and I'll switch to this mic. Now, I'm not usually in the habit of asking my audience to relax and go into a deep state of relaxation and then talk when they might be tempted to fall asleep. So I want you to know I'm not going to let that happen. You're going to stay awake. And the reason is that I'm going to share with you kind of an interesting story. The first story is this. My wife and I, we went for dinner in Copenhagen. And my wife said, we need to talk. Is this a good thing? It is for her, isn't it? It is for her, but it's not for me. And so she says we need to talk. We're sitting down, and she just starts talking. And she's like, oh, anyway, I just wanted to remind you that tomorrow we're going to be doing that thing with those people, and we're going to have that. Oh, and also, when we get to Stockholm next week, you know that shawl that I saw in Tallinn? They had the red one there, but they've got the white one in Stockholm, and I think I want to get the white one. Oh, also, I got to make sure, because she's the CFO of an island, right? So I got to make sure I get those accounts emailed off. I completed them. I got to get that done. And I'm just sitting there like, wow, this is a That's a lot of information right now, isn't it? It's a lot of information. Then she's like, and you know, Eric, I've been thinking about something. I think you work way too hard. You work way too hard, and we don't get to spend enough time together, and we work way too hard, and I'm like, okay, remember, I remember John saying, it's like martial arts. It's like, whee-haw, let it go by, shoo. It's like some little throwing darts, and I'm not going to let them in. And I'm like, yes, tell me more. And she's like, yeah. And then, oh, by the way, also, something else I wanted to mention is that I ordered all that stuff in Amazon that you asked for, and that's going to be coming along soon. Oh, and, by the way, where do you think we should go for Christmas? And then, oh, and you know what? I just don't think you take work seriously enough. I think you slack off all the time. What? In my brain, I'm going, she just said I work too hard. And then over here, she says, I don't work hard enough. This woman is insane. I've got her. I've got her. Objection, Your Honor. The witness is lying. I've got her. I can prove her wrong. No, stop. Don't do that. Don't do that. Yes, maybe sometimes I could take it more seriously while not working harder. I didn't say it. I thought it. I didn't say it, right? And it just continues and continues. And then also, by the way, if you want to save your marriage right now, never go to a restaurant and let your husband sit when there are TVs on the other wall. Why on earth would you do that? I mean, you understand the role of the man is hunting and protecting, in the DNA. And what do we hunt and protect? Movement. That's what gets us. So if we're sitting here and there's no movement, and then suddenly there's movement, we have to look at it, because for millions of years, it meant eating or not dying. So we have to look. To not look is very stressful for us. And so I'm sitting there talking to my wife, and she's giving me all this stuff. And I'm going, look at her eyes, don't look away, don't do it. Oh, there's something over there. I go, I did it! I looked away and it was just the TV again. Okay, no, I can fix it. Shit. What was she talking about? Oh my God, I wasn't listening. Oh my God, she's gonna ask me if I heard her. Oh my God, I'm in serious. Just stop, don't worry about it. She might not do it now. If you start listening now, you'll get back. What's that? Please, no TVs. Don't do it. And I want to be really clear. My wife and I figured this out. When we have stuff, right, we go on the beach. We're lucky enough to live on a beach, but it doesn't have to be on a beach, you understand. It could be in a park. It could be anywhere that you can walk. And you take her for a walk, gentlemen, because on a walk, you're not required to maintain eye contact. You just hold her hand firmly. That counts, that you're paying attention, right? And by the way, women, let me tell you something, just a little sympathy for men about this. Your eyes control your stress, particularly for men. If I am walking along in Africa and I stumble a lion track, will I relax and gaze at the lion track, or will I stare intently at it? I will stare intently at it. Relaxing and gazing would have been, filtered out, Darwinian. I stared and gazed, the lion ate me, right? No, I'm going to stare at it. And what do I want to know? I want to know the direction right away. If it's going that way, I'm going that way. Backwards, right? And by the way, what else do I want to know? How fresh is it, right? I'm staring at it. If I do that and some of the sand falls in, it's fresh. It's very fresh. Will I look around with a casual gazing view of the bush? No, I'm looking at it with piercing accuracy, looking for any sign of anything that could be teeth. So men, and this is true of women as well to a lesser degree, but men, take this, it's so funny. I often mention this in public speaking. People get up on stage in their public speaking and they they get locked on to people and they're staring and they're generating stress. In John's language, the minute they start staring, the blood stops going to the conscious part of the brain and moves back into monkey brain, right? It's really difficult. So when you demand eye contact from us, you are inherently stressing us out to no end. So go for a walk instead. Now when my wife no longer says, we need to talk, she goes, we need to go for a walk. Now I know. I put on my sunglasses, the ones where she can't see my eyes, and we go for a walk, right? But now let's talk about talking. I'm puzzled by this whole talking thing. Like, she just said that I work too hard and that I don't work hard enough at the same time. Why can't I point that out to her? She clearly has brain damage. There's something wrong. But then I have to realize something. When the men left camp, what do you suppose the women had to do to keep the animals away? Talk. They had to talk. Every hiker knows it. If you're in grizzly country, you talk on the trail to keep the grizzlies away. So the women had to talk, and they had to talk a lot. They had to find very long ways to say quite simple things. Just, the men are going, dude, you said it and you didn't get rocks thrown at you yet. They need to talk. And women, can I please have an honest thing from you here? You know, I decided I'm going to borrow from, like, you know, Marissa and Lisa and Dan, okay? If I say something that really works for you, and I have to try and do this with an English accent so I can have Marissa, and then I have to have Lisa and I have to have Dan. Okay, right. Now, if I say something particularly poignant for you at any given moment, what you're going to do is say, fuck yes. Now, what I'm getting at here is that if you want to compare this, it's very simple. In the Bushman camp, every single camp I have ever been to, and I've been to many, there are two fires. The men are sitting at one, and the women are sitting at the other one, and they do not speak to each other, almost ever. I've been with them for like days on end, and the women occasionally walk over, say two words, walk back over to their fire. Done. There's almost no interaction. We've lived like that for millions of years. Oh! I get it now. Look, guys, if we have 10 men sitting around a table having a chat, and one guy is not saying anything, he's just sitting there, doesn't say anything, will anybody notice? No. No, they won't. The guy's like one less guy to compete with in this conversation. Now, if one of the guys does notice, he's going to turn to his buddy and go, hey, dude, what's up? Nothing? Cool. Done. Right? 10 women sitting around the table. One woman doesn't talk for 12.4 minutes. At about the 12.4 minute mark or sooner, one of the women's going to notice that Sally is not pulling her weight. Because talking is a job. You know, the hyenas are out there. And so they're going to go, Sally, what's wrong? And Sally's going to go, nothing. But is it nothing? No, it's nothing unless you actually love me and care about me and you're willing to pull it out of me. And then when I say it, my stress is going to go down. Fuck yes. So now, wait. Now let's put the men and the women at the table together. Johnny's not talking. Nobody cares. Sally's not talking. The women care. But the women care that Johnny's not talking. Hey, Johnny. I'm in the car one day with my practice wife. She knows I call her that. We're very good friends. My wife is very happy that I had a practice wife. So I'm in the car with my first wife, and we're driving along. And she says, what's wrong? And nothing. I'm driving. Nothing. Is it your boss? No. Is it our finances? No. Is it your dad again? No, but it is fucking now. She goes through the whole inventory of everything that's wrong with my life because she loves me enough to pull it out of me. It's insane. It's insane. And so my wife and I, we started to navigate this stuff. You know, now what happens is she starts talking. Immediately, I start thinking, oh, interesting. She's afraid of the hyenas. I honestly think that. I go, okay. But look. Women, are there times when you're trying to talk, and if the man finishes your sentence for you, make the sound that gives you. Yeah, don't do that, men. He finishes the sentence for you or finishes the thought for you, and you don't have to then say what you were going to say. Does that make you feel better? No, she needs to say it. Not for the words themselves, but for the sound they will create. Look, guys, so many women, I don't know, but many women come home and they turn on the TV. They're not even watching it. Because the sound is making them feel like camp is safe. And that's why sometimes they talk in ways that we don't really understand. It's why. And, my wife, she talks she's very unreasonable, this woman. She talks in absolute terms. All the time, absolute terms. You always do this stuff. And I'm going, no, I don't. Thursday I didn't do it. I have proof. I'll swear out an affidavit. Yeah, but you never do this other thing. No. Tuesday, I did it. You're wrong again. Jeez. My first girlfriend, we bought that cat litter, the kind that you clump and you don't have to change it, you scoop it out. And it says that the bottle should last like a good 6 weeks, right? But the thing is that the first one doesn't last 6 weeks because you have to fill the litter box up once. Then after that, they're going to last 6 weeks. So knowing this, she bought this stuff. Knowing this, I filled the litter box all the way to the top, the way to the line where you're supposed to, which used up almost the whole bottle. And she comes into the bathroom with the cat, and she's like, Eric, what the hell? This is never going to last 6 weeks if you use all of it right now. And I go, yeah, but if you don't put it all the way in, then when the cat pees, it'll go all the way to the bottom, and then it's pointless. It'll get all wet at the bottom. And she goes, no, this has to last 6 weeks. And I'm like, no, really. The first one, I'm calm, Eric, calm, and prove her wrong. Oh, I'm getting that T-shirt. Keep calm and prove her wrong. Which will not sell very well. And so she's got this, she's like freaking out, and I get the label, and I show it to her. It says, use the whole first bottle. It says that right on there. And I showed it to her, there was proof, and now we should go out and have dinner and have sex. It'll be fine. She didn't talk to me for 2 days. She didn't talk to me for 2 days because she talks in these absolute terms because she wants to have the whole conversation. And so when my wife and I walked out of that restaurant in Copenhagen, I was stressed. I mean, I'm telling you, we can make jokes about all, but my heart hurt. My brain hurt. I sweat. I was stressed from the conversation. She had bombarded me and bombarded me and bombarded me, and I had taken it. I'd say, tell me more. And I was like, and then we walked out of the restaurant, and I'm like, so, honey, how was dinner for you? And she's like, I think it was the nicest meal we've ever had. Oh, okay. She goes, how was it for you? And I said, I thought you were going to leave me. It was intense, but it's a different model of communication because when the men come back from hunting, they come back at night. What's different at night in Africa? The real wild animals come out. You see, in the day, the cheetahs are out and the elephants are around, and that's all fine and good. But you see, lions and spotted hyenas. A spotted hyena can crush a giraffe's thigh bone with its jaws, and it takes 3 hyenas to remove a female lion from a kill, just to give you a strength ratio here. And it takes 30 hyenas to remove a male lion from a kill. These are very big animals. How many of you have ever seen a lion? How many of you have ever seen a lion with no bars, no glass? You and the lion? How many of you ever walked around a corner, walked around the trees, and there was a lion standing there? Anybody had that? A couple people. You know, like I do, that your DNA straightens. It's like, poof. It's intense. We've known them for millions of years. Leopards come out at night. Leopards are specialist primate hunters. They know exactly where your kidneys are. A leopard will jump on your back, grab you by the neck to paralyze you, and then when you tickle your cat's belly and they do that thing with their back legs, that's kidney removal. That's what it is. And those are the animals that are out at night, and the female voice does nothing to deter them. It is a dinner bell. The female voice does not scare those animals. It's a dinner bell to them. They're not frightened by it. But what they are frightened by is the cavernous voice that males make. And so when the sun goes down and the men gather around the fire, the men start talking, and they talk like crazy. I asked the chief, I said, what are the women talking about all the time? And he goes, who knows? Yeah. Oh, by the way, one of the visits I went with them, I said, I sent out this broadcast to some of my close contacts, and I said, I'm going once again to visit the Bushmen. Do you have any questions for them? And I got the most incredibly interesting questions. I got some cool questions back from Tony Robbins. John Gray sent me a list of 30 questions, 20 of which would have required therapy to ask. They were pretty deep. He wanted to know how many orgasms they had. I don't even know how you say that in the Bushman language. I try that. It's not going to be easy. But I did ask them on his behalf. I said to them, how do you know when you pick the right woman? How do you pick the right woman? He goes, there's two things. If she has a good work ethic, think about the time, guys, right? If she has a good work ethic, and now you define this as you will. Those of you in the tantric crowd, you may take it one step further than others might conceive. But he said, if she has a good work ethic and she can produce the nectar of God, then she's a good wife. And I said, but what about her personality? And he goes, why would that bother me? They have almost no interaction other than mating. It's really fascinating. And then I said, well, how long does the process take? You see the girl, you're attracted to her. How long till you're married? And he goes, well, it could be instant. Days, weeks. It could be instant days, weeks. Now, at this point, the chief was really fascinated. Nobody had done this with him. And he started firing questions back at me. Now, that was cool, right? He goes, well, what about your tribe? What's the mating ritual there? How long does it take to get married? And I said, well, I come from a tribe of many, many tribes. I said, there are some cultures where the parents choose the mate for you, and with no choice to the woman at all, or even to the man in some cases. I said, it's a very weird world out there outside of this little Bushman area. And he said, but what about for you? And I said, well, in my case, I was with my wife for about 8 years before we got married. And he went, 8 years? Really, 8 years? And I'm thinking, what's his problem? And I went, in my tribe, premarital sex is okay. Oh, okay, he says. Everything's going to be okay. But back to the sun going down and the big animals coming out, I asked the chief in the end, I asked the translator what the women were talking about before the sun went down. He says the women are telling stories about the environment, and they're telling stories about the politics, and they're telling stories about each other, and they're comparing notes on the different men. They're sharing valuable information. They're sharing snippets of information. It's like inventory to women. I've got my bag of information. You have some information to share? Let's do that, right? But then we're at the night fire, and the men are there, and they have this like clicky sounds that they make when they speak. It's really cool. And I said, what are they talking about? And he goes, they're talking about the most incredible hunting trips that they've ever been on, and the big animals they killed, and the gorgeous woman from the other village, and they're talking about the big storm and all this kind of stuff. They were talking about the same things guys do now: sports, women, achievement. They were talking about stuff that, they were comparing battles with each other. Very different model of conversation. Also, at the men's fire, very often it would be one man speaking and 9 men listening, and then one other man speaking. At the women's fire, whoa. It was like birds in the corner, nattering and going away. It was almost like music over there. And this makes me think a lot about why my wife and I have had communication issues. So I'll tell you some of the clues. A little life hack. My wife learned this: I won't argue with her feelings. I won't do that. And so she no longer says to me, I think that you work too much. She says, I feel like you work too much. And then I immediately realize it's totally reasonable that she feels that way. I can see why she might feel that way at times. And if 10 minutes later she says, but Eric, I feel like you don't take it seriously enough, then I don't disagree with that emotion. I can see how she might feel that way, because I began to realize that my wife, and I don't know if it's like this for the rest of you, but my wife wears emotions like she's shopping for clothes sometimes. It's like, I'll try this one on, and then I'll try that one on, and it can switch and change so fast. And I just put on this sound like Steve Jobs. I got my black shirt and my jeans on. There I am. And as I began to navigate that, she learned that if she said, I feel, that I would not argue with it anymore, because there's no point arguing with a feeling. But here's one of the problems. One of the reasons that women do this stuff. You guys want to know why PMS is tough? Would anybody like to know why PMS is tough? PMT for some of you, or what we're really talking about is that one time of the month when you hate him. You know this? You know what I'm talking about? what's really going on there, I believe, is that you are testing him for eventual pregnancy. You're saying, you know what, when I get pregnant, I'm going to be grumpy, I'm going to be moody, and it's going to last a long time. And I'm going to figure out right now if you got the balls to stay with me. And so I'm going to say unreasonable things, I'm going to be a little nasty to you, and if you run at the first sign of trouble, you are not daddy material. Does it make sense? So when I'm going through this stuff with her, I began to really get to the point where I began to realize that sometimes she didn't say I feel. And that's because the minute something becomes a system, it's no longer a good test. See, she's saying that stuff to test me, but if she says I feel, she's giving me a cheat sheet. And sometimes if she's really upset, she's going to remove that. She's going to, you can take the test for real this time. You work too much. You're doing this. And I then have to translate. She means she feels that way. And then I respond to her feeling, and it changes everything. Does this make sense? Yes. It just navigates the situation so much better. It makes me feel like I can communicate with her and she can communicate. Do I get it right all the time? Absolutely not. I completely relate. I know John and Bonnie very, very well. I'll share a little side story with you. They invited us over for dinner one day in Mill Valley where they live, and we're sitting there, and then Bonnie goes, Eric, I've noticed that you tend to end all of your talks dead on time. Could you tell us more about that? She did, I'm not kidding you. I know them quite well, but I also can relate to the thing that she has where it's like people come up and go, oh, you're married to John Gray, you're so lucky. People say that to my wife sometimes. I'm like, you have no idea, I'm a nightmare. I'm a guy, I'm a nightmare. It is what it is, but I do the best that I can. But what I'm sick and tired of is a personal development industry that puts it all on the women or puts it all on the men. It's like, oh, men, you got to just understand women are going to do this and this and this. No, women, you got to understand too. Is that fair? Yes. And my wife and I have figured that out fairly well. We've been together for 12 years, and she is absolutely my best friend in the world, without question. And she is the mother of my new 9-month-old baby, and I'm thrilled about that. And it's not always easy. In fact, I'll tell you, right now it's not easy, right? Brand new baby in the house. Is that easy? No. And we're navigating it, and we have to. So what I was thinking is I want to finish on something to tie this all up for you guys. This time I want to take you to the future. Are you okay with that? Yeah. Can you guys give me the fire again? I want to take you to the future. So again, make yourself, you guys, I love, one of my favorite things about A-Fest, I remember the first time I walked up on the stage, I walk up and I see this. And I'm going, I think the whole room should look like that. Wait, there was a room that I was in last night that was a bit like that. All right, in the interest of time, sit back, relax, take another deep breath. Sit back, relax, and take another deep breath. And as you do that, and as you let your muscles go, and as you breathe deeply, as you go right back to that state of relaxation that you had before, what I want you to know is that, again, you're in a safe place, but this time, we're not going to travel quite so far. We're only going to travel into your future. And I don't know what day exactly it is. I don't know what month exactly it is. But I know that it's the day that you wake up one day and you realize that you are enjoying the relationship of your dreams. It's that day. I don't know if it's tomorrow. I don't know if it's 5 years from now or next week. But you woke up that morning and you woke up with gratitude and realized that you are in the relationship of your dreams. And as you revel in the gratitude and the appreciation and the adoration of being in the relationship of your dreams on that day, all I want you to do is remember. I want you to remember what you did to get here. I want you to remember the times that you forgave, genuinely. I want you to remember the times that you did the things that maybe you didn't necessarily want to do because that's the price of admission, because you love that person. I want you to remember the times when you focused on all the things that you loved about that person instead of all the little things that you ignored in the beginning. I want you to remember how you arrived on this day in your most incredible, amazing relationship. Think about some of the things that you changed about yourself. Maybe there was that day. Do you remember way back in Ibiza? You learned all that incredible stuff from Marissa and John and Dan and John and Marissa. What did you change in your life after that day? Why was your life so different? How did you create this unbelievable relationship? What did you change about yourself? Be the change that you want in your relationship. What did you do differently? What did you allow differently? Who were you to attract or create this relationship? And I want you to keep this consideration going on for the next week or so. I want you to remember. For some of you, you're in this relationship now, but some of you, it's in the future. And I want you to remember how you got here and keep remembering how you got here, because in the future, in the next week or 2 weeks, as you go back to an old pattern, I want you to remember that you don't do that anymore. The beautiful thing about human consciousness, the beautiful thing about deep meditation, the beautiful thing about altered universes is that humans have the unique capacity to go out into the future and remember their past, which is actually their future. How did you do this? And as you prepare to come back to Ibiza now, as you bring your consciousness back into the room, retaining the memories and the skills and the realizations of how you created your unbelievable relationship, I want you to slowly ease your eyes open, and I want you to look around the room and make eye contact with people. Don't say anything, just make eye contact with them. Nice, deep eye contact. And with your eyes, I want you to give them one awesome AFES message. Tell them you're glad they came. Look them in the eyes and say, I'm glad you came.